Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer.com. Today on our 2019 Ford Explorer, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster Diode wiring kit. Now the purpose for diode wiring is to transfer the basic lighting functions from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Explorer. And that's not only going to keep you legal and safe, but it's going to let other motorists know your intentions as you're going down the road. Now there's going to be 5 main components needed to flat tow your Explorer down the road safely. One of them is going to be the base plate here, which provides us with a solid and reliable connection point to hook up our tow bar to. The tow bar is going to go from the base plate to the back of the motorhome. We're also going to have safety cables, which is a secondary connection just in case in the event of a catastrophic disconnect. The safety cables are going to keep everything connected together. We're also going to have wiring. Here we have diode wiring, and this is going to transfer the lighting signals from the back of the motorhome to the back of your Explorer so everyone can see and know your intentions as you go down the road. Lastly, we're going to have a braking system. Now the braking system is going to stop the Explorer using its own brakes instead of relying on the motorhome to slow it down. Now what I really like about this kit is the fact that it uses diodes. So those diodes are going to protect the Explorer's factory wiring if a short or an electrical issue happens to occur on the motorhome side. Now there is going to be other options available to accomplish the same thing that we have here, one of them being magnetic lighting, for example. Now I personally would prefer the diode wiring over the magnetic style wiring for a couple of different reasons. The diode wiring, once you have it installed, you're done. You don't have to worry about it. It's not going to affect anything. Looks really clean. All you're going to have to do is plug in your main wire at the front of your Explorer whenever you're ready to flat tow. The magnetic wiring, you're going to have to set up every time. You're going to have to worry about finding a good spot to stick those magnetic lights to the body of your vehicle. And then you're going to have to kind of run your wires and drape them along the top of your car every time you want to flat tow. And in my opinion, that just takes too much time and is a little too inconvenient. Getting this red coiled wire plugged in is the only thing you're going to have to worry about. Push it into the included connector here at the front, plug it into your 7-way at the back of your motorhome, and you're ready to go. Now since this is coiled, it's a nice little touch, I think. You're not going to have to worry about it hanging down too low and dragging the ground. However, when you go to turn and it needs to extend, it'll give you that length that you need. Now, the 6-way plug is going to come included. And if you pull it out, the cap's going to be spring-loaded, which will help keep those terminals inside protected. And you're not really going to hardly even notice it whenever you're not using it too. So overall, you're going to be able to get your wiring plugged in and set up really easy without having to think too much about it. Now as far as the installation goes, it is going to take a little bit of time, but it really isn't all that bad. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and hook it up together now. To begin your installation, you're going to want to first run your wiring from the front to the back. And so right here is where we're going to mount up our plug eventually. So I just took the wiring, kind of looped it around. You want to leave yourself enough room to work with here to get it connected. But here's the path that I took towards the back of our Explorer. I kind of just went down through here and up and over our K member here. Just use some zip ties to keep everything secure. And when you are rounding this, one thing you want to keep in mind is you want to try to avoid any hot or moving parts. I kind of just was able to run our wiring through this bracing here. And then this tube here, I was able just to push our wiring through it. Comes out right here. Again, able to kind of push our wiring into the frame rail, where it comes out right here. Now, what you want to do when you get to this point is take the white wire and cut that in half carefully. You want to try not to damage the other wires. The side of the wire that's running towards the back, you're going to peel that wire all the way off our harness and set it to the side because we're going to use that later. But the other side, the wiring that runs to the front, what you're going to do is just take the included ring terminal, crimp that onto your wire, and use the provided self-tapping screw to screw it to the body of the vehicle, because this is going to be a ground. With that done, you can then run the rest of our wiring towards the back, which I go around the fuel tank, connecting it to some of our cables here. Then I go up and over our subframe. Now when it gets to here, what I've done is just took some of the provided wire loom and just wrapped it around the harness. That way I'm not going to have to worry about it really coming in contact with any of our air conditioning lines for the rear AC, and just gives us an extra shield from the exhaust. I just followed those lines, and this is where our wiring drops out. Now at this point, you're going to take the green wire and just separate it from the yellow and brown to kind of give yourself two wires. So eventually this green one's going to run to the passenger side. The yellow and brown are going to go up and run it into the taillight pocket. So once we're at this point, we can move up top and get our taillights removed. Now here at the back of our Explorer, to get our taillights out, we're going to need to open up our hatch. So with the hatch open, it exposes these two little covers here on our taillight. So you can just take a pick or a small screwdriver, kind of pry behind them and pop them out. And that'll expose a couple of bolts underneath. We'll run those out using an 8mm socket. You can just grab the taillight and kind of work it from side to side, pulling it towards you. And what we're going to do is just disconnect our wiring from the taillight. These style up here, they're just more or less quarter turns, so you turn it about a quarter of the way. The bulb will pop out. We're going to have one plug, push down on that center tab, separated. Other side set up the same way, so we'll just repeat this process over there. So now we're able to pull our wiring up into the taillight pockets. So to make that easier, I'm just using a pull wire. I have a piece of nylon air tube, but you could always just use a coat hanger or something like that you might have laying around. So you push it down through the opening until it comes out of the bottom side. Here's where ours came out. And then what we're going to do is tape our wiring to it. So you're going to want to take the yellow and brown wire, tape that to it, and now would be an excellent time too to take that extra white wiring that we cut off earlier for our ground wire. We're going to tape this bundle of wire to our pull wire as well. And we can just pull up on it. And carefully work our wiring up into the taillight pocket. So I went ahead and tested our wiring. That way we know which wires we need to hook up to. And what I found was that the yellow wire here, that's going to be our tail light or our running light signal. And this peach colored wire, we're going to use this for our stop and turn. Now the other side has the same color wires, and they also function the same as these. So what we can do now is take these two wires, we're going to cut them in half, and then strip back the insulation on each end. That way we can connect our spade terminals. So we're going to be using the blue ones. These are just going to slide onto the bare end of the wire. And we'll crimp it down. Never a bad idea to just lightly tug on it to make sure it's connected. Now I'm going to do that same process for the end of the yellow wire as well as these two ends. Now we can get our new wiring ready. And so what we're going to do, the yellow wire, this is going to get a blue spade terminal put on it. Works the same way. Crimp it down. Now the brown wire and the extra white wire that we ran, these are going to get connected together. And this white wire is going to act as a jumper for our taillight signal. So the other end of the white wire eventually will run over there to the passenger side. With them two twisted together, you're going to take the bigger yellow connector. Put the 2 wire ends into it and crimp these down. Now at this point we can hook up our diodes. So we're going to take one of the diodes. We're going to grab our connector, the wires closest to it. We're going to be putting on the single terminal that says out towards our connector. We'll grab the corresponding wire, plug that into the other end, and on this wire, what we're going to do is hook up the yellow wire to it, the new yellow wire. Same thing with this setup here. Take one of the diodes, single out goes closest to the connector. The other end of the wire plugged into the in portion, and then our brown and white wire get plugged into that last terminal, just like that. Now we can secure our diodes. Now on the back of them there's actually some sticky tape, so we can just peel that off and stick the 2 together. We can kind of work our wiring back down. And then we're just going to take our tail light, get it plugged back in, and reinstall them. So now back underneath the Explorer, we can go ahead and run our green wire as well as our white wire over to the passenger side tail light pocket. Here's the path that I took. Just dropped down right through there. Brought it behind our back bumper, just securing it every now and again with some zip ties. Just shot it straight over, and then dropped the pull wire down through just like we did the other side. Connected my wiring to it. Now we can go back up top and pull our wires through. After we pulled our wires up into the taillight pocket, more or less just repeated that process that we did over on the driver's side. We'll run through it. The green wire will go to the side of the diode with 2 prongs, as well as the side here with this peach colored wire. The other end of the peach colored wire gets plugged into the out. The other diode, our yellow wires, will go to it, and the white wire will tap into those. So once we have everything set up, now we can simply just plug our taillight back in and get it reinstalled. So now back at the front of our Explorer, we can get our plug hooked up. So I went ahead and stripped back the insulation on our wires. And we can take our rubber grommet, feed our wires through that first. And just set it out of the way for now. We can grab our plug and get it hooked up. Now the way the plug works is there's set screws that you'll loosen up, push a wire in, and then run them down. So I went ahead and loosened these up, and if you look carefully, there's actually some lettering by each terminal. The ones we're going to be using will be this one here, labeled TM. That's for our taillight signal, so we'll put the brown wire in that. The one next to it we're going to use, which is labeled GD, which is ground. So our white wire will go there. Right here, we'll be using this one. It's labeled LT for left turn. So our yellow wire will go into that one. And this one labeled RT is for the right turn, so our green wire will go into it. I'll go ahead and plug our ground wire in first. Doesn't matter which order you do plug these in. So you set it down into place. And tighten down that set screw. I'm just going to use that same technique there to get the rest of these plugged in. With everything hooked up, we can take our rubber cap, put that over it. We're just going to secure it to our base plate using some Tek screws. Now, one thing I want to point out, Once we test it and make sure everything's working, we know that we're not going to have to mess with the plug again. We can come back and take some silicone and kind of pack it in there, and that'll help prevent our terminals from getting all rusty and corroded. But for the time being, we'll just secure it right here, and that way we can test it. So now we're going to test everything to make sure it's functioning properly. So I just used our pigtail here to plug into a tester box. Now if you don't have a tester box, you could always just hook up to your motorhome and do it that way. So we can go ahead and turn on our tail lights, our left turn, our right turn, and our brake lights. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Diode wiring kit on our 2019 Ford Explorer.